Number one, I am thrilled with the turnout we have today. This is the first quarterly meeting of the Wyandotte County Historical Society. Our infomercial is we meet once a quarter. The meeting this month was such a large turnout, we ordinarily would be at the Wyandotte County Museum, but because of the interest shown and because of the availability of George Meyn and the construction they're doing on the roof at the museum, we moved the quarterly meeting to here. So I'm thrilled you're here. Next, I would tell you that our next quarterly meeting will be the first Sunday in June, and it will also be here, and it will feature a history of the fiestas held in Kansas City, Kansas, and will involve the Rose Mendez dancers. And so there will be information about that, just like there was today in our quarterly newsletter, on our Facebook page, in the information sent out by Unified Government. And again, if you afforded your email, we'll make sure you get included in that kind of information. Because this is also the meeting of the board of the Wyandotte County Museum, I do want to recognize some of our officers who are here. First, I would like to recognize Gil Castro, who is the second vice president and the program committee chair. Gil? Also, our treasurer, Jim Ryan, who is here, does have a request in terms of a motion that we need to have the board approve for payment of a bill. Mr. Ryan.
For the board, we are committed to an annual maintenance fee for our database. It's a cloud database from rediscovery for all the archived data. And that's the amount of $2,340 for the year starting March 2023 through March 2024. I'll ask for board approval.
And that is your motion, Mr. Ryan?
That is my motion.
I will second that motion.
And it's second, Mr. Mataggart. All those board members, will you signify by saying aye if you approve that expenditure? Any opposed? Thank you. We have a quorum. That is approved.
Thank you.
The good news for the rest of you folks, that basically covers our business portion of the meeting, which if you've been to any of the Unified Government meetings later, they don't run this short, and they're not nearly that happy. But thank you very much. The next thing I want to tell you all a little bit about our speaker and a little bit about Junius Groves, but I do want to recognize that we do have family members of Mr. Groves here in the audience. Joyce Groves Holland, who's the great-granddaughter of Junius Groves, is here. Joyce, would you stand up, please?
Sorry.
Thank you for being here. And do you have someone to introduce?
Yes, it's my sister Alicia.
And another great-granddaughter. And a great-great-granddaughter. More importantly, I also got a chance to talk to Joyce before we started the meeting. She has put together what she calls a roots type of book about the Groves family, and she has it over here on the sideboard, here at the side. And again, after we get through with the presentation today, there will be food, there will be drink, there will be time for social hour and conversation. And the great thing is I saw a lot of that going on before we started. So we will have plenty of time for that. I will tell you that in kind of honor of Junius Groves, what we will have today is a potato soup bar. So we're trying to go ahead and be somewhat in vogue with Junius Groves.
You said drink, you got time coming potato thing.
No. You can make your own vodka, but under the rules, and there'll be no Slivovitz either. So understand. But we will have beer and wine and water here. So again, hopefully that you folks can all stick around and enjoy after the presentation. I would also tell you that this presentation has been put on before for the Bonner Springs Historical Society. We are in Bonner Springs as we sit here, and the Bonner Springs Historical Society is a very vibrant group, and I happen to have been able to attend quite a few of their particular programs, and that's how we became aware of this program. That program was put on by Brad Harrington and Nina Kimbrough. Unfortunately, Nina could not be here today, but Brad Harrington is here to make this presentation. Now, I'm not going to bore you a lot about Brad Harrington, but Brad is one of the owners of a local business in Bonner Springs, the Harrington Funeral Home, which has a long, long history in Bonner Springs. Brad is a historian himself, but more importantly, if you didn't know, he also has a very, very fast boat at Lake of the Ozarks. As I understand it, he has the elapsed record on the Lake of the Ozarks. And again, I didn't find this out from Brad, did find this out from other folks, and I don't want to know how much this boat costs or how fast it goes. But with all that being said, I'd like to introduce a local historian and wonderful businessman here in Bonner Springs, Brad Harrington.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Yeah, and as far as my boat, it's nothing glamorous. It really isn't. I did get booed off of the lake yesterday while I was out testing, so it's nothing fancy. On behalf of the Bonner Springs Historical Society, thank you for having me here today. Unfortunately, Nina Kimbrough, that was able to help out with a presentation at our annual meeting back in October, wasn't able to make it. And she was at our meeting on behalf of her mother, Mary Kimbrough. And Mary Kimbrough is a wonderful, wonderful lady. I actually went to school with her son, John, in Bonner Springs, graduated from Bonner Springs High School with him. And so Nina came on Mary's behalf. And Mary has done a lot of research, a lot of history. I hear she even has a history room at her house. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's wonderful. And she went on to tell us that actually she is a great niece, I believe. So it was her great grandfather was Junius Groves' brother. And he was a potato farmer also, and had about, I think she said about 500 acres of potato ground and farm ground. She goes, he only had 500 acres. I said, that's huge. And she goes, I know, but Junius is the one that gets all the credit. So, but it's still, they're all a wonderful family, and it's wonderful that we have some of the family members that are here. I'd love, if you don't feel like getting up here, maybe in the social hour we can all visit, and I'd love to look at the information that you have. The group, the Bonner Springs Historical Society, put together this presentation, and every year we try to do a topic for our annual meeting. We just decided on this and selected this and started doing the background on it, and it's just amazing that we have the Potato King that is here in our area. Now, our historical society, Bonner Springs Historical Society, honestly, I think it ought to be the Bonner Springs Edwardsville Historical Society. Because Edwardsville, no offense if some Edwardsville residents are here, but we don't have Edwardsville Historical Society, I don't believe. So we kind of need to include that, maybe with your guys' group as well. So there's a lot of history that kind of intertwines with Bonner Springs history, and one of course, in the Edwardsville area. The area that Mr. Groves was at, and the whole Groves family, is just east of Edwardsville on Caw Drive. If you're familiar with that area, just east of there is where his home was. And in the little packet that I put together, there's information in the back that even shows the ownership map from back in the day. And then I went ahead and got on Google Images, and then got a modern map so you can get references of where his home and his ground was and compare today. So you can drive by and see that. If anybody is familiar with that area and knows where Mark's Motorcycles is located at, his home was basically right behind that area. And that whole area down in there, Grove Center, was all the family was living in that area there. And actually, that steel road that comes off of K32 there, that kind of follows where the railroad spur was put in for him to be able to upload the potatoes to the railroad and get them out all over the nation to others that were buying his product. And in doing my research, I found a video that was presented, and we can play that. And I had put that together, and then I'll answer some more questions and go through the packet I have here and kind of open up. And if anybody has anything else that they can add, we'll go with that. So I'd like you guys to see this presentation.
Junius George Groves was an American farmer and entrepreneur remembered as one of the wealthiest Black Americans of the 19th and early 20th centuries. Known as the potato king of the world by 1902, Groves optimized potato growth methods, outproducing anyone else in the world at the time. His colossal financial success was featured in Booker T. Washington's book, The Negro in Business. Washington's book was deployed to combat racism by providing economic opportunities for other Black Americans. Junius George Groves, the son of Martin and Mary Anderson Groves, was born into slavery on April 12, 1859 in Greene County, Kentucky. After emancipation, Junius obtained a small amount of education. However, Junius ultimately taught himself to read, write, and comprehend math. With just 90 cents to his name, Junius, the Exoduster, landed in Edwardsville, Kansas during the Exodus of 1879. Exoduster was a name given to Black Americans who migrated from states along the Mississippi River to Kansas in the late 19th century as part of the Exoduster movement, or Exodus of 1879. It was the first general migration of Black people following the Civil War. As many as 40,000 Exodusters left the South to settle in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado. Junius married Matilda E. Stewart a year later, and the couple had 14 children, 12 of whom survived into adulthood. After working as a sharecropper, Groves began purchasing farmland in 1884. By 1905, he had approximately 500 acres. Junius and Matilda grew the farm and business. The pair eventually built a 22-room mansion. The Groves family mansion was complete with electric lights, 2 telephones, and hot and cold running water in all of the bedrooms. It was the largest in the area and had its own railroad spur. I know, I can hear what you're thinking. What's a railroad spur? A railroad spur is a type of secondary track used by railroads to allow customers at a location to load and unload rail cars without interfering with other railroad operations. This is a testament to the level of produce generated by Junius Groves. Besides producing potatoes on his own farms, by the year 1900, Groves bought and shipped fruits and vegetables on a large scale throughout the United States, Mexico, and Canada. His other financial wins involved owning and operating a general goods store in Edwardsville, Kansas, while also having stock in mines and stock in Kansas banks. He also founded or co-founded the Negro Business League, the Pleasant Hill Baptist Church, the Kaw Valley Potato Association, and the Sunflower State Agricultural Association. Junius's worth was estimated at $80,000 in 1904 and $300,000 in 1915. $80,000 in 1904 would be equivalent to $2,313,222.47 in the year 2019. And $300,000 in 1915 would be equivalent to $7,643,940.59 in the year 2019, which made Junius one of the most prosperous Black Americans of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Groves mobilized his wealth and impact to contest racism. During the growing season, as many as 50 workers Both black and white worked on his farm. He founded a Black American Community Center in Edwardsville and a golf course for black citizens, which may have been the first of its kind in the country. Groves died of a heart attack at the age of 66. His funeral, according to a local newspaper, was the largest ever in Edwardsville. He is thought to be buried in Grove Cemetery, near the community center he founded. And that is the amazing history of Junius George Groves.
So in doing the research, I found that video, and it's a wonderful video that gives the background on Junius Groves. I went ahead and found other images and put them together there from the images that we had, and then potato growers and things, just to show how hard being a potato farmer is. I mean, you're bent over all the time. So I know that he employed many, many people. That's his home. That was in Edwardsville. But still, that was very strenuous work, and it's a testament to how hard of a worker and how successful he became from being a hard worker. That actually is the map that shows in the back. It's an 1870s map, I believe, that shows the property that he owned in Edwardsville at that time, or at the time of that map. I think it would have been 1870. It would have been, is that the 1905, I think? It's later. But it shows the property there that he owned. And that is a book that some of you saw there as you checked in today. There was a children's book that was written with him as the theme. And it's a wonderful children's book. And I know that there's a lot of requests for it over at Wyandotte County Museum and at the Bonner Springs Library. They have a few copies there, and we've have a couple of copies that we have at our Historical Society as well. So it's been very successful, and if you'd like one, I'm sure that the museum can help you with that. Now, as I speak, I'll probably let that just go ahead and play again, but I'll just turn down the sound just so that you can see those images again. A lot of the things that I showed, that his house and things like that, are all in the packet. And I know a lot of people got these packets, and if you don't have one, like I said, the museum, they can get you one if you would like. So in that little packet that we have here, you see him and his wife on the cover, and evidently, one of the things that we were finding out is that they had built two homes. They actually had a couple of different mansions. One had burnt down, and then the other one I have here in the back, it was still standing in the, about 59 it was still standing. I have an aerial photo here from 1959 that still shows the mansion still standing in the very back of that packet. And then you see here on the very back, in 63 it was still standing, and in 66 you can see it is just the foundation. So sometime in between 63 and 66, maybe the family members know the day that it burnt down, but you can see that there. And then also it shows there the actual site behind, like I said, that business that's now called Mark's Motorcycles. And this is that map that I was talking about is from 1887, and that shows the plat. And so on that plat map that you can see in the back of there, and it will show on the screen as well, from what I can tell, the part of his ground is where the Edwardsville City Park is now, today. And I know that the city of Edwardsville has said that they get people that come in and ask for information about Junius Groves, the potato king, and they don't really have any information to give out. So we'll make sure that they have these kind of packets that they can give out to people that come in and ask for information. But I, for one, is there anybody that's a resident of Edwardsville here? So I know Tiny is. So I think that the Edwardsville City Park ought to be the Junius Groves Edwardsville City Park, because it's actually on property that he owns. I think that'd be wonderful. Well, I'm not a resident of there, so I can't do that. But that'd be a great project. And down there at the city park, you could even put up a placard that gave a little bit of the history about the Groves family too, since that was actually part of his potato farm. I think that'd be wonderful. All of our the history that I was not big into history when I was in school, but the local history is what just I am so enthused about. And when you can show children, this is where his farm was, and this is where his mansion stood. And this gentleman came from to this area by walking here with 90 cents in his pocket and made himself the most successful potato farmer west of the Mississippi. It's just an amazing story that I think needs to be shared with even more people. It was amazing to us how many people did not know about the Potato King and Junius Groves in our area. And it was an honor to enlighten, people about that, really was. And we had also heard that he was mentioned in Booker T. Washington's book, and it mentioned it there on the video. And so I dug and found that book and found the chapter about Junius Groves. And at that time, he would have been alive and would have been interviewed for that article or for that chapter. So a lot of that information is wonderful, and I have it there in the packet. I have all of that information there. Also, we found, as you go through, a lot of the information is through the museum and things, and one of the images it shows, it says that he was a golfer, and he built his own golf course right there in Edwardsville. Evidently, it probably was there up on the hillside, not down in the river bottom there. And it said in our research, we found that after he was very involved and got to where blacks could play at golf courses in Kansas City, then he took his golf course and started selling lots off, and that's what became Grove Center and the whole kind of area down there, and was selling those to people, the building lots down there in that area. And I've heard that there's even been golf balls that have been found in those creeks down in there. And I heard that, Tiny, I don't know if you were with them or not, but Mary Kimbrough took them for a kind of a driving tour of that area. And I don't know what property they were on when they found those golf balls, but I think it'd be pretty neat to find a golf ball from back in those days. Don't know. What's that?
Or sharks too, if you want to.
Yeah. So it's pretty neat that he and it said a golf for him to take that up. That's pretty neat that he did that right there in Edwardsville. And it also talks about there on the video that he had a railroad spur put in, or the railroad actually had a spur put in, and so he could load his potatoes onto the railroad and ship them out all over the nation. It's pretty significant if you're going to have enough potatoes going out that you need to load them on the railroad, and you need your own spur right there to load those. So he was very successful. And there was other potato farmers in this area as well, but I know that loading area was there in Edwardsville. And if any of you are familiar with the Bonner Springs area, the Moon Marble location there in Bonner Springs, that was a potato sorting building before they put them onto the railroad out in Bonner Springs. So the Kaw Valley land was very good for growing this kind of potato in this area. So there was quite a few of people that were growing the potatoes back in those days.
Do you think they had any machinery or just all hand?
So, and I also looked, Junius Groves, supposedly patented a potato sorter. I can't find the patent. Do you have it?
No, I don't have a patent either, but he did. He was the first to develop it, but it was another gentleman who patented it.
Oh, darn it. So, and I believe the modern day sorters are a derivative of that. They all come from that potato sorting machine that he had. So now as far as getting the potatoes out of the ground, I think back then they were digging them by hand. So I don't believe they were doing any modern machineries at that time. Any other information on that? Like I said, I looked for that, but I guess if someone else got the naming rights to it, he wouldn't have got that. So, yeah. Oh, darn it. Darn it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I purchased that property at 9920 in 1995.
Uh-huh.
And my intention, it was already zoned for storage of vehicles
Oh, yeah.
and construction workers. We had a concrete company there before I bought it
Uh-huh.
that just used the garage for office.
Okay.
And after I bought it, my intent was to build a 9-hole pitch and putt on the side of that hill because of the elevation difference. You couldn't build anything flat. But at that time, if there's been any golf balls found since 1995, they didn't come from that old one. They came from, because I collected balls from Sunflower Golf Course by the bushels full and had a driving range there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, personal, I didn't have a business, I never did get that far. But the property that I got was 10 acres and it was exactly opposite from the city park.
Okay.
Perfect, because I was trying to negotiate with the city to build a driving range where that city park was when I first got in there. They said, no, they wanted to have it for other activities. But I've got some other interesting things I'll talk with you about later. When I got that property, I was very interested in Junius Groves and his background there, and actually found the foundation of one of the houses that he built and have a picture of it that I'd be happy to, when I find it in my belongings, I'd be happy to give you. It was in the frame in the back porch. Do you know the sequence of ownership from Graves on?
No. I don't.
Well, the contractor bought it from me, but I bought it from, you know, the master plumber in Kansas City area, the master plumber. I can't think of the last name. But his father was the son-in-law of the lady that was living there when I bought it. I bought it through the son-in-law. And before she had it, she raised her children there. Before she had it, they bought it from the Jacksons. You know, the Jacksons filling station? They were children there and rolled down the hill from the old house that was built in 21. It's not there now. Contractors dug it all up, cleaned it all off. But I'd be happy to talk with you with some of the facts that I found and see if I can find that picture for you.
Speaking with Mary Kimbrose, she was saying that the home that she was raised in still is standing down there, and it's close to where the church is. The church is just up 98th Street, right? Just up 98th Street on the west side of the road there. And with me being in the funeral business, I was trying to find if there was that many people that came to his service. I saw one thing mentioned that there was over 300 automobiles at his funeral in 1925. There wasn't a lot of cars back then, folks, so that was a lot of people. So that means it was huge. And a lot of times those were at their home. So it would have been either at his home or at the church. And it says that this video says that he was buried in Grove Cemetery, which I believe, I was told that he's probably buried in Franklin Cemetery, which is just northeast of there. But I wonder if maybe he was buried by the church. I haven't found any information about that. A lot of times people would be buried in the churchyard, but I can't find where he was buried.
Would that be a public cemetery or do you think?
Franklin Cemetery is, and maybe it was always the Franklin Cemetery as far as I can find. But they mentioned the Grove Cemetery in that video, and I can't find a Grove Cemetery. Now there was I can't hear.
He's buried in the
Franklin Cemetery?
They call it the Groves.
Right, I found a lot of the other groves, but there's just not a headstone for Junius there.
It was, I want to say it kind of deteriorated over the years, but it was just a plain stone with his name on it, and of course the back of the cemetery.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, they couldn't give him a tombstone because they were threats from the KKK to dig his body up and hang him in Edwardsville and set his body on fire. So in the beginning, they had to, like a lot of slaves couldn't afford tombstones, so they would put like stones and arrange them a certain way. And that's what they did with him in the beginning. And I was surprised. I was surprised that he was.
Eight drives?
Yeah.
His barber?
Yeah, but
He's dead.
I,
it didn't matter. Well, it didn't matter at the time. We're not gonna, dwell on hate. We're gonna dwell on all the good things,
So a small, simple stone, you said. I know from being around other cemeteries, of course, me and my line of work, the small little stones, if they get hit, those the white old stones that you see standing up, they're very fragile after 100 years. And if they break and fall down, a lot of times the people that take care of the cemetery with the mowers or whatever, they'll move those to the edge of the cemetery and put them there in the fence row. And I want to go now before it gets too overgrown in the spring, but walk around the corner or the edges of that cemetery to see if there's any little stones like that we can see. And a lot of times you can't read them, and you have to do like you did back in school and take a piece of paper and a crayon and go over it, and then the letters you can read. So it'd be nice to have his grave marked, or at least have a stone there in the Franklin Cemetery to designate him and his wife. They said that she worked long days too, right beside him, and he, yeah, it was very common. Yes, sure was.
The Groves Cemetery, I believe, is at the southeast corner of 86th and Swartz.
Right.
And you said the Franklin is northeast of there, but
So
whereabouts?
86th and Swartz is the one that's now called, or it's referred to as the Franklin Cemetery.
Oh, that is Franklin, right. Well, a lot of the Groves are buried there.
They are buried there, right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there's no indication of him being buried there other than the family history, but there's no marker.
I think there's about 18 groves in there, 18 groves in, 19, maybe 20.
Yeah, and there's a Groves marker there that I looked at. There's a website called Find a Grave. I don't know. I'm looking at a room full of historians. You've probably seen that. But there's a Grove stone there. I think it was a cross, but it looks like it was handmade out of concrete. And those usually don't last very long, meaning only 20 years or so. But it looks like it's holding up really well, and it looks really neat. So I want to go by there and take a look at that. Yes, ma'am?
Has there been any, formal documentation about the rest of his family? So I come from his brother's line, his brother walked over here with him. Is there anything that talks about any of that part?
Not in our research. Like I said, Mary Kimbrough, her great-great-grandfather or great-grandfather was his brother. I don't know if that's relation of yours or not. So I think that she has a lot of that information. Like I said, she has that history room. Nina was saying it's one of the kids' rooms. Now she said you go in there and it's mom's all of her history. So she's such a wonderful lady. So you might reach out to her. Maybe she has a lot. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Any other information?
I can't thank Brad enough. I hope we can all give him a big round of applause. No, did not do that. I do have someone else I do need to make sure I recognize. As you notice, this is being videotaped today. That's being done by Shaden Webb from LTN Global, ltnglobal.com. He is here as a volunteer, and this video will make sure is available on the Wyandotte County Museum and Historical Society website. So I certainly appreciate Shane being here on behalf of himself and his company. And with that, I would tell you, I believe we'll be ready for refreshments shortly. I do hope you all will visit, but again, we will have food as well as libation. And again, this is what we try to do for those folks in Wyandotte County who are interested in history. We try to do these 4 times a year. So thank you all for being here. Yes, ma'am. Hey, no, we thank you for being here. Again, all of this have a passion for Wyandotte County. And the great thing is, our director, Amy Locke, is one of the people who make sure that that is kept alive. And so if you've not met Amy, make sure you meet her today. We have a full-time, vibrant museum with 3 staff members are here today. Jeff Jennings, Dave Hartman, and Amy Locke, our director. And they're the ones who are in the back of the room. They're the ones who are trying to keep this alive along with you folks.
One more thing I do need to add. Excuse me. One more thing is that since our meeting, it has been brought to our attention that in doing our research that the National Agricultural Hall of Fame, that's of course right here, a couple hundred yards away from us right now, Junius Groves is not in that National Hall of Fame. And so I think, and as I can tell by everybody looking at me, he should be in that National Hall of Fame, especially since he was a farmer in our county that National Agricultural Hall of Fame is in.
What's it gonna take to make that happen?
So we've got a couple members in our group that have researched and how to nominate him. Basically, they just need the paperwork filled out, and I said, well, I have a packet, and it's more than enough information that you would need to get him into the Hall of Fame. So we would submit it, and then they would vote on it, and he would be automatically in as far as I'm concerned, but he definitely needs to be in that Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Now, one more thing from Amy Locke, our director.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. If you did not get a packet, we did make some more copies, but if we run out again, just let us know and we will get you one after the program. I do think we've sold out on all the books that we have available. We do have sample copies that are from our traveling trunk program. If you didn't check out our table, about 3 years ago, the museum got a grant from Freedom's Frontier to do 2 traveling trunks. The Junius Groves story was one of those traveling trunks that's been adapted for elementary students all the way up through high school. So we have 2 versions of that program that is available to schools for free. We can take the trunk to them, they can pick up the trunk. We've done it several times for community groups. And the little kids, it's really focused on becoming an entrepreneur and that kind of story, and then the more academic version is for older kids. So we also have a lot of other resources at the museum, primary documents and things like that, as well as a number of materials on our website related to that school program. So I just wanted to share that, and if there's anything back there that you didn't get a copy of or that we ran out of, please just let us know and we'll get that for you, and thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you.